Welcome everyone. As a lot of you know, I have very close connections to Kenya. So I have a terrible habit of when people say, you know, our clients want to go to Kenya or to Tanzania, and I have a terrible habit of pushing Kenya. And it's actually, I am confessing my sins in the end. So the one thing I decided to do is we would, and the other thing I always have sort of disliked is when people try and, you know, encourage a client to do Tanzania and Kenya together, because the two of them have so much to offer. And they really, I think, should be done as separate destinations. And, you know, then you have another reason to come back to Africa. So what we decided to do is to have this webinar devoted totally and entirely to Tanzania. But then we realized there's a lot of places like Ruaha and different places that people don't know about. So we decided that we'd have the webinar in two parts. We would have the first one doing the classical East African safari, but also showing you unusual properties that you may not have heard of. And the second then as well is going to be more off the beaten track and maybe discovering the places in the south of and to the western side of Tanzania that you don't know. The other thing is that, you know, there's a lot of collections of different properties, and you know, some of those collections have just amazing properties. So rather than just show one, you know, type of property or one collection or one ownership or association, we decided to dip in and to show you different types of properties, but also ones that we think represent some of the best that's on offer in Tanzania. We were just talking earlier to say that Tanzania is open and you just need a test to come in. So there's no reason for you not to start booking Tanzania. And they have a new woman president who is a breath of fresh air. Everyone is very impressed with her. She's gone live showing people, we discovered today, you know, of her taking the vaccine. So a lot of good things happening in Tanzania, and now more than ever is the best time to visit. And remember, it's such a big country, like it's a vast country, it's huge and quite sparsely populated as well. So again, perfect for those post-COVID destinations. So we're going to start off with Ed and from Harvey and Anderson, and he's going to give us an overall perspective on doing a safari or indeed visiting Tanzania. And also not just from the animal side, because one thing I always think that's important when people go to Africa, there's more to Africa than wildlife. You know, there's fantastic, you know, cultural experience. There's so much to see, to do, to learn. So over to you, Ed.
Right, man. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Very nice to chat to you all. Feels like we're all sitting in the same room. So just as a quick introduction, my name is Ed Stein. I've been in the luxury tourism industry for about 20 plus years. And for the last about 12 years or so, I've been really involved in East Africa. So my passion for that part of the world has really grown. I own a company called Wanderlust. So I have the opportunity to represent some amazing brands across Africa. So because I don't know, you know, what the levels of experience are within the group, you know, we try to put together the type of properties that doesn't just only showcase different sort of properties, but also different regions, different experiences, you know, just something really just like a broad cover. So, I mean, for those of you that haven't been to East Africa yet, you're definitely missing something. You know, I remember, you know, even for all the years that I represented or worked in the tourism industry, was predominantly more based in Southern Africa side, where, you know, tourism is very, very different down in Southern Africa. And I would say probably one of the biggest things that when I arrived in Tanzania the first time, many, many years ago, was the fact that there weren't any fences around. And I was quite used to, you know, having a really good quality game experience down in Southern Africa, but you would see maybe 10 or 20 or 30 of a species together. All of a sudden we get to East Africa. I mean, it was just amazing. You know, particularly Tanzania. I mean, then you would see 100 animals together. So for me, that just, you know, it encapsulated the true wild sense of Africa and safari and why you want to do it. You know, so it sounds a little bit like Texas, but that's the way that it is. Considering you know, that Tanzania has registered about 25% of their land or the country to conservation areas, you know, it comes as no surprise that they got about 19 different national parks. I mean, so the diversity of your experience is just absolutely incredible. And I mean, and then you throw into the mix the fact that they've got about 120 different tribes, you know, so then not only do you get this incredibly diverse game experience, but you also get a very, very rich cultural experience. And in that sort of sense, you know, I also want to just touch on it to say that Tanzania is incredibly well connected from a logistical point of view. So you know, that's why the team at Adams and Butler can tailor make any sort of wish of itinerary for you. But the one thing that I would want to say to you is that although you can do a complete flying safari, if you're limited for time, do that, but always try and include a little bit of driving within all of that. You know, one of the big reasons just for that is especially because of this, because of the cultural variety and everything that you'll experience. So there's so much to experience. So get a little bit closer, experience the country a little bit more. So, you know, like we just said now, we're going to look at mostly the northern parts and things. So, and although you can do so many different combinations, we generally, you know, we would generally say that to somebody that's going to book Africa for or Tanzania for the very first time, you'd probably look at the northern circuit. So the northern circuit is roughly, you know, or very loosely speaking, you know, like Manyara, Tarangire, and Ngorongoro Crater area, and then into the Serengeti. That's also where you know, where the migration, you know, traditionally follows the routes, etc., where you can see, you know, where you can really experience the most during your shorter trips. But then for the second time visitor back to Tanzania, I mean, and you touched on that briefly, Serian, but, you know, a whole complete new world opens up to them. Once you get down to Nyerere National Park and to Ruaha, and then you go right out to the western side, you can get into places like Katavi and Mahali and Mkombe, you know, chimpanzees. I mean, everything just opens up. So I think the crux of that is just that Tanzania is one of those destinations where definitely once guests has booked the first time, I guarantee you almost that somewhere down the line, they would want to go and do it a second time. So it's really worth you investing in your own knowledge and working with the right partner so you can put that trip out in the right way so that they do come back. There's just so much to experience in it. I already told you about the different properties and things, you know, so we're going to be looking from sole use houses, lodges, up to fly camping, you know, intimate, smaller parks where you get a little bit closer to the animals, like at Tarangire, for example, you know, compared to what you would see in the Serengeti, where it's a little bit further away from you. But then again, you've got, you know, it's got its own majestic feeling to it. Yes.
Ed, that's one thing that people don't always think of, that you can do the chimpanzees in Tanzania. They forget about that. They always think of the Serengeti and the migration, and they sort of, you know, Arusha and the crater, and they sort of get lost in that. But the thing is, like, you can do almost everything in one trip as well. And another combination that's very popular, you know, when they have that flight, and hopefully it'll come back soon, but the one that went from Serengeti to Kigali. So as well as doing your chimpanzees in Tanzania, so the only thing you might feel you're missing out if you're doing that bucket list trip is the gorillas. So then by doing that direct flight from Serengeti to Kigali, you can, you know, add a few days doing the gorillas as well. So it really is a fantastic one-stop shop with a little bit of an add-on as well.
Yeah, and it really just, you know, and I think that's where it gets so important to have the right partner that you're booking your trip through. So because a lot of your trip really depends on what your client's experience or past experience is and what they want to experience in this trip. But 100% so, you know, the further that you venture out, obviously the rewards are just, you know, it's just escalating, but it gets a little bit more challenging, but that's the adventure of travel. I mean, it's amazing.
Do we have that Google map we were going to show? Gio, I think there was a Google map. Do we still have that?
Yeah, so Gio's got that.
Okay, well, we know
I think, you know, just while we're waiting whilst he gets that up, I mean, you know, what I can say to you is it's probably one of, you know, if you look at any rate sheets of East Africa, you would see that it's very, very seasonal. You know, there's very definite low seasons, high seasons, etc. A lot of that is being dictated by the rainy seasons, which I'll quickly touch on now. But probably the question that I get asked the most is, when is the migration? Or when is the best, you know, when is the best time to travel? So I think in that sort of sense, you know, 2 million animals don't just disappear. The migration is all year round. It just depends on what you want to see out of it. The same as what you would do with the gorillas, for example. Does somebody want to see, smaller family groups, with more lively, or do they want to see the bigger males, etc.? It's the same thing here. So that really then depends where the migration is and what the experience was in the past. So, I mean, if you roughly just want to speak on it, and you can see on that map now, so it's a little bit small on my side, but if I can see there, so down there towards the southern side where you'll see Lemala and Mpingo, that area down there, I mean, that's where you start, where Tarangire and Lake Manyara is just up to the northwest of that. Those areas there is absolutely amazing to always try and include in your itineraries. I mean, like Tarangire, like I said earlier, you'll get much closer to the animals. You've got all these little windy roads across rivers and things, makes for great fun. And then you would sort of slowly make your way up. This is just really on a traditional sort of trip. You might go through Lake Manyara, but then most people would then go off there to the right, go through Ngorongoro, go up north there to Gibbs Farm sort of area, through the crater, spend 2 days or so there, and then they would head up into the Serengeti side. Now, where you head into the Serengeti really depends where the migration is at that time of the year. I'll take you through, just for those of you that haven't been there, I'll take you through a very quick thing just to tell you where more or less the migration is at what time of the year, what period it is. But generally speaking, if you look at the early part of the year, that bottom area there where Mwiba is, that Sean's going to tell you a little bit about later, that sort of area down there, that's, there you get the Ndutu Plains. That's generally in the early part of the year, December to March or so, because that's where the calving season, or when the calving season is. So you get a mass congregation of all these animals, all the calves are being born. You can imagine just the predator activity down there is just off the charts at that time of the year. And again, a little bit of a lower rate, it's the shoulder season. So a great time to visit, and especially if you're a little bit on the budget side, or if you want to come back the second time and experience that, that's a great time. Then in about April, May, from March, April, May, but more April and May, you'll see that they'll start moving a little bit north and or a little bit west, and then they go up north, and they make their way up during this April and May, which is generally the rainy season. So that's the period where, if you're very adventurous and you're quite happy to get stuck in the mud and have a bit of fun, you could still follow them. But generally speaking, that's a rainy season. A lot of the smaller parks or smaller camps close over that time. But then again, from about May or so, from June, they would then be sort of where you see that line crossing through, it's like almost like central Serengeti, a little bit more to the western side of it, and then making their way slowly up to the north there, to the border of the Serengeti there, where they will then start crossing the Grumeti River. Probably at this point, just good to also just say to you that, remember that all of it, the main aim of the migration is to move and follow the grazing. So you might very, very well find that it's drier one time of the, this year compared to last year. Animals might linger longer in a certain period, or they might move faster, just depending on the grazing. So just always keep that in mind. It's not an exact science. But generally then in June, that's the mating season. That's when they start crossing the river in Grumeti. Love is in the air, obviously, between the herds. So great time for honeymooners to come. But that's really where the action then starts, where they start crossing. They then slowly make their way across, like July, August or so. They'll make their way across into into Kenya, and they're heading to the Mara. And that's then obviously in that next month or two, that's where they're crossing the Mara River. That's where, those iconic images you see of them, with the big crocodiles and all the animals around there. So that's a really exciting time.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, because it's great to know that, because actually we should have had a chart maybe, which we might send out with this, of the migration, because it the question that everyone wants to know. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to meet Sally from Gibbs Farm. And I actually love Gibbs Farm. I think it's so pretty, it's so wonderful, it's so relaxing. It's an option for a place to stay when you're visiting the crater. So Sally, lovely to have you. And will you tell us all about Gibbs Farm?
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Sally. Thanks for inviting us to participate tonight. It's wonderful to be included. I am the general manager here at Gibbs Farm with my husband, Nick. We do this together. We've been here since November of 2019, so spectacular timing on our part. Actually, we did get 5 incredible months here, and then we've been lucky enough to see a lot in the area whilst we've been here. Gibbs Farm is located in Karatu, which is conveniently placed halfway between the Serengeti and Kilimanjaro. It's a little bit different than your normal sort of safari location because we're not a tented camp. We're not located right in the middle of a national park. Gibbs Farm is a property that dates back 100 years. It commenced its life in 1923 as a coffee plantation owned by a German coffee plantation planter with 100% Arabica coffee beans. And the coffee at that time subsidised by the German government. He was here until the 1940s, and then after the Second World War, the property was taken over by James Gibbs, who married Margaret here on the property. Margaret was of English descent, but had actually been born in Tanzania and raised here. So they were married here in 1946 and took over the property and established it as a working farm and coffee plantation. And they started to take on travellers that were migrating through from Kilimanjaro to the Serengeti. It became a popular sort of halfway stop for the trucks coming through to stop for a night, take fresh vegetables and water from the farm and fuel from the bowsers that they had here before making their way into the Serengeti to follow the migration and to sort of go on safari and of course into Ngorongoro. So within driving distance from Gibbs Farm, we have Tarangire, Lake Manyara, Ngorongoro crater, which surrounds the property on 3 sides and through into the Serengeti. So it's a good sort of way to break up. It's a nice recuperating place post Kilimanjaro if you've done the climb. And because we're not actually inside the national park, it does mean that people can walk around and stretch their legs, have guided walks, do outdoor activities. It's a 50-acre property with 30 acres of that being coffee and 10 acres being farm, and then 10 acres of cottages with established gardens around them.
Sally, we have a video, so maybe we'll show that now so that people get a sense of place. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. It's really fantastic. And how many nights would people stay when they visit you normally? Like they would use it as a base for Ngorongoro, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
People know
normally it's 2 nights. Sorry, did I cut you off there?
No, don't worry.
Yeah, so I think 2 nights is probably ideal to stay here with the range of farm activities, and also to have sort of a full day into Ngorongoro. You know, that's always great with an early start. We're 20 minutes from the entry gate to Ngorongoro Crater. So we are actually outside of the park, but as I said, have it on 3 sides of the property here. And it's nice also as sort of a recovery on the way back from Serengeti, if you've been up staying in the camps through that area, to come back with plentiful water supplies in the area here, our own microclimate. It does mean that you can languish in hot baths and take showers. We have showers indoors and outdoors, which sort of gives you those luxurious showers, which you know, are not quite as available in many of the tented locations.
Just there's a question there. How many rooms in the lodge? And like the rooms are a cottage style, aren't they? Like they're individual little cottages as well. So can you just let people know how many rooms in the lodge and how far ahead of time would one need to book? That's a question that just came in.
Sure. So we have 17 standard cottages at the lodge. They're quite colonial heritage in style, with individual artworks that have been collected over the last 60 years, which are customised into each room. The rooms come either as a king room or twin queen. We have 2 family style houses, and each of the family style houses is a 2-bedroom, and they include a 2-bedroom with a combined lounge room. One of them is a more modern style. The other one, Deutsch's house, is an older traditional cottage style of Gibbs farm cottages. They are all freestanding, built into the gardens to maximise sort of views, as well as the established gardens for privacy. Each of the cottages has an indoor and outdoor bathroom, as well as a fireplace, which is needed at this time of year when it gets quite cool up here in Karatu. And for booking time, we go through the various seasons of, you know, a shoulder season and the green season and peak season. So for a peak season, going to June, July of 2022 and 2023, we're very heavily booked already. But the shoulder seasons and green seasons are a lot more relaxed, you know, with those, you know, you're more able to get sort of a shorter lead time on making bookings, but probably a year out in those peak seasons.
Fantastic. Thanks a million. So thanks a million, Sally, for that. So we're going to move on to Veronica in Lemala. But just before we move on to Lemala, just to say as well, the food is amazing in Gibbs Farm. It's absolutely out of this world. Fantastic, you know, home produced produce, you know, really, really fresh farm to table salads and soups and everything like that. So that was one thing I always remembered when I visited.
Yeah. So 90% of what we eat from the farm, directly from the farm. So it's all organic, no chemicals used. Fantastic.
And that's a really, really big plus. So on to you, Veronica.
Right. Well, everybody, lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Veronica with Lemala Camps and Lodges, and I'm going to be talking about Tarangire, where one of our properties is located. So Tarangire is approximately 2,800 square kilometers in size, and was established in 1970. Drive time is approximately 70 miles from Arusha, which puts you leaving Arusha to the main gate at approximately 2 hours. So it's a very, very comfortable drive. You can also fly into Tarangire. So if you have clients that are short on time, Tarangire has its own airstrip called Kuro. And most properties in Tarangire have resident guides and vehicles. So you have the option of your clients to fly into Tarangire and book it on game package, or of course, you know, take the advantage, as was said earlier, and actually drive. It really is a beautiful drive, and it being at 2 hours, you can get to the gate and already be stretching your legs. Now, Tarangire is, for many, is the quietest part of northern Tanzania, because it's always, in the past, most people seem to head straight to Ngorongoro Crater and the Serengeti. So Tarangire has actually been kind of missed out in the past. The advantage for that is, of course, is that you get to enjoy it on a much more private, exclusive basis. There is not so much traffic at sightings as there is in the Crater or in Serengeti. But certainly over the last couple of years, Tarangire has come up and is holding herself very strong against the other three parks on the Northern Circuit. She's become very famous for the elephants, big breeding herds that are not migrating out of Tarangire. So she's certainly, you got clients that are interested in elephants. It's certainly the park that you don't want to miss. It's certainly where you want to be to see the exceptionally large herds of ellies. Undulating landscapes, there's a river that runs through where there's all, and a swamp, so lots of game to be found there. Tarangire, you can get the big five, so it's not like you're missing out or you're only going there for elephants. And of course, very famous for the baobab trees as well. We are seeing very much that Tarangire is becoming a 2-night stay, and not just a 1-nighter. It's definitely becoming more of a 2-night stay at the start of a safari. But we're also seeing that people are putting Tarangire at the end of a trip. So you can certainly start, in the Serengeti and come backwards. And finish in Tarangire. Guests will not be disappointed with the wildlife viewing there. They tend to get to have more time to spend at sightings. And like I said, it's less busy. What makes Tarangire kind of different to the rest of the parks is the ability to do night drives here. So it's one of the very few places, national parks, that you can do night drives, and Tarangire is it. So again, recommending 2-night stays so you can do that. A lot of the properties also offer walking from here as well. So you can do walking trips from here as well. So again, something to be considered. Birding, absolutely fantastic on birding. Over 500 species recorded there. And also you get some game there that you don't see elsewhere. So, in Tarangire, you can also see Gerenuk. You can also see the lesser kudu as well. Weather.
We have the video, Veronica. Should we show the video?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because the video is very much about Mpingo and a little bit of Tarangire, but I think it'd be a good point to do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. And the other thing I remember when I visited Japan, food.
Yes.
Yeah, the one thing you can really see there, Veronica, is those fantastic views that you have. And it's a very modern building in a way that fits very well in with the natural stone and everything into the setting, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I mean, she's a permanent property. She's small, just got 15 rooms, but very spacious. And we do refer to her as being tented. Obviously tinted canvas walls, but over 90 square meters inside space. All the rooms have a bathtub on the veranda, because Tarangire can obviously get quite cool, because where the Lemala Mpingo is elevated up on the ridge. So absolutely spectacular views over Tarangire. So bathtubs that you can relax in, and obviously inside outside showers. Main swimming pool, and like I said, it's also, we've got a family room, 2 bedrooms. So it's certainly a a great place to operate out of and to stay at the beginning of a safari or at the end of a safari. But Tarangire, I really cannot stress enough that is must form part of everyone's itinerary. She's very special. She's got all the big five. And as you know, was stated earlier, you can get a lot closer to the wildlife there. And it's just a very different park. It's not, you know, it's what you see there is the vegetation is very different to what you'll find in the Crater and the Serengeti. And, you know, for the start of a safari, when you're, you know, driving, it's a great place to get to know your guides. It's a great place to know how game drives work, you know, starting in the morning, you know, and either going out all day and carrying picnic lunches with you and coming back in the afternoon. Or of course, you know, you could go out in the morning, come back for lunch, you know, enjoy that spectacular view and then go out in the you know, in the evening as well and do a night drive. So yeah.
Awesome. And then not far from Manyara as well. Not far from Manyara as well.
No, not at all. So you could base out of there and exit the park and do a game drive in Manyara as well. I can just see someone said about the views. Yeah, no, the views are absolutely amazing on a clear day. You can see Mount Meru and Mount Kilimanjaro. So yeah, but yeah, you can certainly do Manyara from there. And also, you know, everyone's always very interested in doing a Masai Boma. And there's one near the main gate of Tarangire where the chief is based, Chief Labulu. And so again, we highly recommend to include that, where guests can have a sit down with the chief himself and really have a one-to-one understanding about the culture. So definitely not to be missed.
Thanks a million. So we're going to head over now to Sean, but it's one Tarangire that has to be included when you're doing the top half of Tanzania. So thanks a million for that, Veronica. And on to you, Sean. So do you want to show the video first or later? You can tell us.
You read my mind, Siobhan. Let's do the video first and then we can get on to it.
Fantastic.
Baadhi ya sehemu zina uwezo wa kukubadilisha upya. Yaone maumbile kwa macho mapya na jizamishe kwenye utamaduni. Tengeneza miunganisho yenye manufaa. Kuwa mdadisi. Kuwa na motisha. Safari inaweza kukusafirisha, lakini ziara zinakaribisha kumbukumbu za milele. Njoo ujionee.
Perfect. On cue. Thank you so much. That was good. So everyone, listen, it's an absolute privilege to be part of this webinar. So thank you to Adams and Butler for inviting us. It's definitely an esteemed bunch of people that are on here. So hello to everyone. So from Legendary Expedition side of things, as you saw from the video, Mwiba Lodge is one of the properties, and that's our flagship property that we've got within the Legendary Expeditions portfolio. I'm going to share a couple of slides as well, just to give you some imagery behind what the Mwiba Lodge in particular stands for. So let me just share my screen here, and then I can make sure that everyone follows suit with it. But ultimately, as I said, Legendary Expeditions is the company, but Mwiba Lodge is the flagship that we've got, and it's really set out on a rocky outcrop on the Aragonisai River that overlooks not only on the one side a riverine forested area, but on the other side the most spectacular views, like you've seen or see from this image in front of you, how that's unit number 6, and that's probably the most sought after up on stilts. Mwiba is a lodge that is very different from a lot of other properties within Tanzania. And we really focus a lot on your adventure aspects, your expeditions aspects that kind of epitomize what Legendary is all about. And I thought a good starting point is really to have a look at a map of exactly where we are. And Ed touched on it a little bit earlier, but Mwiba Lodge specifically is in the southern Serengeti area, which is down here. Now, I think it's also important to kind of give an idea of the area that you get the opportunity to explore, because the total land mass over these areas over here, it totals about just over 3,000 square kilometers. And as Ed mentioned in his, when he's talking about the migration works in a kind of a circular format that comes down to the southern Serengeti, the Ndutu area, and onto our land here, typically around December through to around March. That's when the calving of the migration actually happens towards the end of January. So it really is a spectacle all year round, not only during the typical peak season in Tanzania, which is June, July, August, September up in the north, but also down in the south when you get the opportunity to have a look at the mega herds calving. And up to 8,000 wildebeest young are born each day in the peak of the calving season. So it really is quite a spectacle. But again, it's very much that extensive amount of land that you get the opportunity to traverse. And I think that kind of leads into not only what the lodge looks like, but also what the experiences are that we've got there. So Mwiba itself, like you can see here, the most spectacular views, like in the rim flow pool, where you can laze and relax. The lodge, obviously, as most lodges do, come equipped with a gym, a spa, and all the rest of it. A beautiful little wine cellar as well for the most intimate dining occasions for honeymooners or romantic clients that come through for those special occasions. But it really is a very spectacular setting that it has. I mean, you can imagine yourself sitting in this jacuzzi. This is actually interesting enough, just off the side of that rim flow pool that you see there, and it's completely private. You have to walk through the crevice of a rock to actually get to this jacuzzi, but you can have a private dinner there, or you can just obviously enjoy the hot tub towards the later part of the evening. So it really is a very spectacular setting that you have within the confines of the lodge. And it goes without saying, obviously the property is beautiful, very well equipped, as we would expect it to be. But that's not what makes legendary, or not what makes Mwiba very special. It's very much about what you can do there. So every one of our bookings gets a private guide and a private vehicle. That's very important for us. And the reason why is because you can really tailor that safari experience for clients, depending on what their needs are. We know that clients and our guests love to have different interests, whether it's bird watching or big game or cultural or adventure. So you really get to bond with your guide throughout the stay, and then also get to experience, and almost like with a tick list, get to see what it is that you're most kind of wanting to do whilst you're there. One of the big features about Mwiba Lodge is the fact that you get exposure to two of the lesser known tribes in Tanzania. The one is the Datoga, which is the tribe that you see in front of your image over here. And they're a pastoral tribe. You really get to go there kind of late afternoon, early evening, when the cattle are coming back to the village. You get to interact with the head chief that is there. You get to do a bit of dancing with them, if you like, but it really is not commercialized at all. It's very much a very intimate, authentic kind of cultural experiences that we are able to offer out of Mwiba. Or the other alternative is that we also have the Hadzabe experience, which is a nomadic tribe of Tanzania, and they live off the land where we're situated. And this is a cultural experience like no other. The first time I went up to Tanzania, everyone was like, oh, you've got to do the Hadzabe experience. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I think done cultural experiences before, etc. When I went with these guys, it is the most mesmerizing experience. You literally have a window on their world of what they're experiencing. And as they fan out into the woodland, they use communication signals to call each other. So they might not be very close proximity to each other, but then you'll hear a whistle, and suddenly all of them will go running to this one bark or tree, and the tiniest little hole will appear, and they'll kind of open the hole a little bit, and they'll bring out the most perfectly formed honeycombs, and they'll share it with the guests. So it really is a phenomenal experience for guests on a window on the world. They'll make a little fire there, etc. They'll welcome you into their world, but not in an invasive way at all. It's very much, like I said, a window on their world. And they are very sustainable, which is typical of most African tribes, in the sense of they won't harvest the same honey from the same beehive for quite a period of time, and that they mark the bark and they mark the tree from which they've harvested. So it really is a fantastic experience to go and walk with the Hadzabe and experience the world according to their viewpoint. So that's another aspect of what makes Mwiba Lodge in particular very special for us. If you're looking for a little bit more adventure, we offer fly camping, and Ed again touched on it. I'm referencing Ed a lot, but he did touch on the fly camping side of things. And this is really a spectacular experience that clients, when they retain their room or their suite at Mwiba Lodge, can really go out into the wilds. We set up the camp. There's only 4 tents in the fly camp in the middle of nowhere, and we have that experience that you can dine under the stars. It's obviously done during the summer months, or not during the summer months, during the dry months of the year, so that you don't get rained on. But it really is that adventurous, spirited, hey, go out and really experience the heart of Africa when you're out in the middle of nowhere. No Wi-Fi. You have a kind of long drop or toilets or bucket showers, etc. So you can really experience it in a very different manner. And of course, just to end off from an experiential side of things, what we then have, and it works very well from a fly camping side of things as well, is that you can combine it with the helicopter. And we've got a permanent based helicopter that is out of Mwiba as well, that also services Mila. And quite interesting with the helicopter is it's not just a typical scenic helicopter flight that you do where you'll go and experience certain things and can come back into camp. This helicopter is really used for expeditions where you can go, yes, you can go and do an hour-long journey, but you can also go to 3 hours. You can go to Lake Natron, you can come back, you can fly over our land in the southern Serengeti, etc. If the calving herds are there. So you can really utilize this helicopter in a very different manner to your typical scenic excursions that are then offered. And then we also offer it from, as I said, from a journey perspective. Take it for 7 days, do the circuit amongst Legendary, go up and do the transfers with it and really utilize it. Fly into the fly camping, into the middle of nowhere with a helicopter, fly to the waterfall, which is generally done during the rainy season, etc. I did this experience a couple of months ago when you fly onto that beach there and then you swim in the waterfall and then you come back and you have a nice lunch. So really bringing that expedition, that laissez-faire kind of setting to all of our guests to be able to tailor the experience that they may have if they then journey with us. So that gives you a little bit of an insight into what Mwiba Lodge in particular is all about in Legendary expeditions. But it's about an hour, just over an hour flight out of Arusha, which is the gateway to the Northern Circuit. And again, it's very much whatever you want to experience, the team is really catered towards creating those experiences for you to get the best out of your trip to Northern Tanzania.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sean. Thanks a million for that. So now we're going to pass on over to Lizzie, who's in Mkombe House.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for letting us join this very prestigious group of lodges, having visited most of them myself. I feel very honored to have been included. So I'm going to talk about Mkombe's house, which is probably one of the few or the only actual private house in the Serengeti National Park. And perhaps we can play the video and I can chat again afterwards. you. So Mkombe's house is in northern Serengeti, up in the Kogatenda area, and it's really a kind of a home away from home. It's taken on an exclusive basis. There's four ensuite rooms, 2 of which are specifically designed for kids, so they are a little more enclosed, and have not as nice a views as the 2 main parents' rooms. So it's wonderful for a sort of multi-generational family, and it can take up to about 10 people with children. Everything is done in your own time. You eat when you want to eat. Kids, mum, whoever can go in the kitchen and chat to the chef and say, look, we really feel like this tonight. So everything is very personalized. It doesn't have a sort of a hotel feel to it. It really does feel like a home away from home. Everything is very uniquely designed. Everything in our camps are generally produced in Tanzania. They're not shipped in. So there is a uniqueness in the camps and a authenticity. The staff are all there. There's butlers, for want of a better word, who wait on you hand and foot, people to look after the kids. This place was really designed with kids in mind. So we have no minimum age here. If you have a baby or whatever, you're welcome to bring them. 2 little swimming pools, one for the sort of adults, a shallower one for the kids. Game drives on your own time. If you want to sleep in and not go out, that's also fine. Yeah, so it's just a very different way to experience a safari, I think, and just it's a lovely way to just be with your family or your group of friends. You don't see other people, and you basically do your safari on your own terms in your own time. Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Lizzie, can I ask you, how many nights would people normally stay when they stay in the property?
I would say normally minimum is about 3, but we have some families who stay a week. It's really up to you. It's in the north, so obviously it's the sort of prime migration time around July, August, September. We've had crossings up into November. So it's a very rich game area and a lot of resident game. So there's a lot of cats that are there year round. So it's normally visited in the migration time, but it's actually a good year-round destination.
And again, very suitable for post-COVID, when you do have some clients that are more anxious than others about mixing with a lot of other people. So if they want to fulfill that African dream and yet still want to be a little bit cautious, it's perfect.
Yes. And obviously there's Wi-Fi, there's a little movie theater for kids. The staff are really good at looking after the kids and entertaining them. Yeah, so I think, and I've stayed there with my family, and it was just lovely, really lovely. You just didn't feel like you were in a hotel. You felt you were in a home.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Lizzie.
Thank you.
So last but not least, we're going to pass on to Candice, who is with Alex Walker's Serian portfolio. And I think in the main, you're going to talk to us about flight camping, isn't it, Candice? But you have also an amazing video to show us.
Yeah, that's correct. Candice with Alex Walker Serian, and I'm tuning in from Arusha today. Thank you so much for having us, me. Yeah, let's watch the video and then we can chat a little bit more about the flight camping experience.
Fine.
Thank you. So that's our fly camping experience. That video is called Soul Drifter, and Soul Drifter refers to one of our itineraries, which mainly focuses on the fly camping experience. I think one of the biggest questions about fly camping that I get is why is it called fly camping? And before glamping and before plunge pools and crystal and chandeliers, there was just camping under a small sheet, a fly sheet, and just kind of taking in the nature, kind of moving according to what the nature delivers, as opposed to some sort of prescribed schedule. We've all been very much kind of conditioned into the way we live now. We're very much on our devices, and kind of our circadian clocks aren't what they used to be. And it's really about just kind of being in touch with the cycles of nature. When the sun rises, you rise naturally. As the sun sets and the stars start to come out, you're winding down your day by the campfire with a gin and tonic. There's still ice in the fly camp. I think that's always important to mention. And yeah, it's just about campfire and conversation and kind of focusing on the smaller things, I think, that you miss when you're in the game drive vehicle all day. It's nice to be able to go on a walk, stretch your legs, see some of the smaller things that we tend to miss out on. Ed mentioned in the beginning the tribes. And of course, that's a big part of the fly camping experience for us. We actually have Hadzabe trackers that are with us on our team. So going on a walk with them and being able to learn a little bit more about their culture, I think is something that's very interesting and unique. So we have the opportunity to do that. And in addition, the fly camping experience we're able to offer throughout the Serengeti. So we're not just limited to one particular location. We pretty much have access to a lot of the kind of off the beaten track areas. So in terms of being able to get away from it all, get away from vehicles, get away from people, and really have an intimate, exclusive experience, the fly camp is definitely the way to do that. So of course,
Candice, can I just ask you, because a lot of people won't know about fly camping, and a lot of people, if they were to choose something, if they knew about it, it's what they would choose for themselves, because it would fit what they want to get from visiting Africa, and just seeing things, and as you mentioned in the video as well, listening to the sounds of Africa and feeling the pulse of Africa with the lion's roar, etc. But now, not exact prices, but just vis-a-vis, staying in a property. Can you compare prices for fly camping? Like, what should people bear in mind? What should they expect? Like, how much more expensive is it than staying in regular, luxury lodges?
So for us, we don't charge anything additional for the fly camping experience. The rate is exactly the same as if you were to stay in the mobile property. We just charge for a specialist walking guide, which you would have with you in the fly camp. So you're just paying that daily cost, which is $6.25 per day, but the daily rate is exactly the same as in the mobile.
Which is very good, because a lot of properties do charge extra for a fly camping element when you're staying with them. So that's amazing. That's very good.
Yeah, we want to make it exclusive, inclusive to all, so available for everyone to be able to take advantage of. It really is such a special experience. And I think, when people have the opportunity to give it a try, they're often pleasantly surprised with how luxurious and exclusive it can be.
So I think luxury to me is walking in the bush. Like when you're walking in the bush, it's a totally different experience to being in a vehicle. It's real.
Absolutely.
Whereas a vehicle is almost like on TV. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
then one of the
as you saw. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the things for groups, so like up to what size is optimum, what size is minimum, that you would cater for.
Sure. With walking, with walking, it's generally try to keep the numbers a bit smaller, just because, there's sometimes a little bit of chit chat and when you're walking and stuff. So we can do minimum 2, maximum 8 within the fly camp. Okay. And as you saw in the video, there was a lot of bare feet and kind of, earthing. That's definitely a part of it. I always like to ask people, when was the last time you climbed a tree? And people just look at me like, oh my God, I don't know what you're talking about. It's the opportunity to kind of like just do things that you wouldn't be able to do, I think, in your day-to-day. So yeah. And someone just wrote, is it on a private basis? Yes, it's always exclusive use, the fly camp. Generally 4 to 1 staff to guest ratio. So you're very well taken care of.
And again, ideal post-COVID. But to be honest, anything you do in Africa is ideal post-COVID, because even if you look at properties, you know, there's so few people staying at all the properties that you're almost, you know, isolated in your own way, even if there are a few other clients there. So, you know, that's the one wonderful thing about Africa. And anything else then that people should bear in mind when they're thinking about fly camping?
I always say just try it, you know, don't hesitate. And it's, you know, it's great in combination with, you know, either our mobile properties or maybe a more, you know, resorty type camp or lodge. And I think in that way, it's you've earned it. You can treat yourself now, you know, as opposed to just, you know, staying in really luxurious properties the whole way through.
And then there's a question again, what are the tents like? And then what's the optimum number of days that you think they should do it? Like 4 days?
We
or...
do a minimum, yeah, we ask for a minimum 3 nights.
Okay.
You know, we have people who, you know, just fly camp with us and, you know, maybe want to do 7 to 10 nights. That's definitely on offer. You'll still have your game drive vehicle, so it's not strictly walking. You can kind of use it as a base camp. If the area is productive and you're seeing tons, you're probably not going to want to move. But, you know, if you decide after a few days, okay, we've explored this area, we can move on, you know, we just kind of take it as the nature comes.
And the tents,
so we use the bell tents. They're like the little traditional kind of teepee tents. We use the same bedding and mattresses that we use in camp, just on the ground. So really trying to give you that earthing, grounding feel.
Fantastic. And then there's a question about what part of the Serengeti that is most ideal for fly camping?
I don't think there's one specific area that's more beneficial than others. It would really depend on the season and the time of the year. And so, you know, we kind of make that call closer to the date of travel and just determining exactly where the fly camp would be located. Some people just want to fly camp near to where the mobile is. Other people want to go a little bit more off-piste and find a little bit of a more secluded area. So it just depends.
That's brilliant. So thank you very, very much. Thank you very much, Candice. And thank you to all the other presenters. So if anyone wants to ask any questions, if they want to unmute themselves, if they want to ask any questions, or if they came in late and they wanted to ask a question of a previous presenter, it will be, the webinar itself was recorded and Rachel will be sending it out to all those who registered. And then again, tune in next week at the same time, because we will be visiting other parts of Tanzania, other parts that maybe you mightn't even have heard of or weren't aware of. So it's a brilliant, you know, opportunity, so that if you do have clients who've been to Tanzania before, you can encourage them to come back. So if there's no other questions, maybe Gio, we finish off the webinar?
Yes, it was really great. We learned a lot today. So thank you everyone who presented, and if there's anything else that anyone would like to know, you can ask now or send us an email and we'll get that for you.
And thank you very much to everyone joining us from around the world. I know there was Canada, there was Argentina, there was the United States, there was Europe. We do appreciate it. And again, thanks to all the presenters. We will be putting this up as well on our website. So for anyone any inquiries that we get in for Tanzania, we can direct them to the webinars as well. Okay, any funny camping stories? Okay, so we leave it there. Thanks a million. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.